Deep in Russia, inside a historic cathedral known for its ancient, hallowed stones, something truly remarkable is said to have happened. A performance was about to begin, one that should have ended with polite, reserved applause. But what happened instead became the stuff of a modern internet legend. It's a story you might have seen floating around online. A tale of how a simple Filipino Christmas song, sung in a language almost no one in the room understood, managed to shatter a cathedral's sacred silence and bring an entire congregation to tears. Now, let's be clear. This isn't a documented historical event. You won't find it in news archives. This story is a piece of modern folklore born and shared on the internet, a kind of digital parable. But its persistence tells us something powerful. This is a story about a sound that crosses borders, a feeling that needs no translation, and an emotion so universal it can connect the most different of worlds. So, what's the secret? What is it about a Filipino Christmas song that could hold this kind of power? To understand the legend, we first have to understand the powerful cultural currents that created it. The story that has captivated people online has a powerful, consistent core: a Filipino voice, a Russian cathedral, and a flood of unexpected emotion. But like all good tales, it takes a few different shapes. In one popular version, it's a full Filipino choir on a cultural exchange trip. They stand before a stoic crowd, a stark contrast to the gilded grandeur around them, and deliver a performance that ends in collective weeping. In another, more personal version, the hero is a single, overlooked person. It's the story of a young Filipino janitor, working silently in the halls of a great cathedral. He's a man in a borrowed suit who gets one shocking chance to step into the spotlight. He sings not with polished perfection, but with the raw, honest ache of someone far from home, and in doing so, unlocks a hidden well of emotion in the stoic audience. Another variation tells of a young girl leading a children's choir, whose innocent voices achieved the same miracle. A choir, a janitor, or a child. The details change, but the central miracle stays the same. The lack of a single concrete event doesn't debunk the story. It transforms it. It becomes less of a news report and more of a parable for our globalized world, asking a profound question. What is this magic that Filipino music, especially its Christmas music, seems to possess? To really get the impact of this story, you have to picture the scene. Imagine stepping into a historic Russian Orthodox cathedral. The air is cool, smelling of incense and centuries of prayer. Light streams through high windows, illuminating ornate gold icons and dark, heavy stone. The acoustics here are built for a very specific sound: Russian choral music. This is a tradition of deep spiritual gravitas, famous for its incredible depth, and the basso profundo, impossibly low bass notes that you feel in your bones. It's a sound that inspires awe and reverence, as solid and ancient as the cathedral walls. The expected response is solemn introspection, not an open display of emotion. Now, into this world of formal, structured reverence, introduce the Filipino spirit. It's a culture known for its warmth, its expressive hospitality, and a deeply personal approach to faith. Where one tradition finds God in a majestic, thundering chord, the other often finds God in the intimate, quavering voice of a solo singer, in a shared meal, in the laughter of family. The legend puts these two worlds in the same room. On one side, a congregation used to a formal, almost stoic expression of faith. On the other, performers carrying a tradition where emotion isn't just part of the music, it is the music. The stage isn't just a physical space, it's the gap between these two cultures. And it's across this gap that the song travels, acting as an impossible bridge. To understand the song, You have to understand the Filipino Christmas. It's famous for being the longest and most vibrant Christmas season in the world. As soon as the briefwaintao, Sudapunfren Bertoid months hit, September, October, November, December, the first carols are already on the radio. The whole country slips into a 4-month-long celebration of faith, family, and homecoming. At the heart of this season is a tradition called Simbang Gabi. It's a 9-day series of dawn masses starting on December 16th. It began back in the Spanish colonial era as a way for farmers to attend Mass before heading out to the fields at sunrise. Today, it's a cherished national tradition. Waking up in the pre-dawn darkness, the cool air filled with the scent of holiday rice cakes cooking at nearby stalls, and walking to a glowing church. This is a core memory for millions of Filipinos. And lighting the way to those dawn masses is the parol. This is the iconic Filipino Christmas lantern, a star-shaped ornament that's so much more than a decoration. It symbolizes the Star of Bethlehem, the light that guided the Magi. Historically, these lanterns lit the paths for people walking to Simbang Gabi. Today, the parol is a national symbol of hope, of light in the darkness, and most powerfully, of homecoming. For Filipinos around the world, seeing a parol is like seeing a beacon of home. This brings us to the emotional core of the Filipino Christmas, an emotion captured perfectly in a single Tagalog word: pangungulila. There's no simple English equivalent. It isn't just sadness or loneliness. Pangungulila is a deep, profound, and aching sense of longing and homesickness. It's the feeling of missing someone or someplace so intensely it feels like a physical presence. For a nation with a diaspora of over 10 million people, nurses in London, seafarers on the high seas, engineers in Dubai, pangungulila is the unofficial language of Christmas. It's the bittersweet ache underneath the joyful carols. It is the longing for the family Noche Buena feast, for that familiar warmth, for the sound of relatives singing karaoke off-key. Every carol, no matter how festive, carries this shadow of longing for those who are far from home. And this potent feeling is the secret ingredient in the song that reportedly made a Russian cathedral weep. While some versions of the legend mention other songs, many center on a carol that seems, on its surface, to be the exact opposite of sad. Kumukuti Kutitap. The title itself is a work of art. Kumukuti Kutitap is a delightful, onomatopoeic Tagalog word that perfectly captures the image of twinkling, sparkling, flickering lights. The song, in its traditional form, is pure joy. It's a playful, upbeat tune that paints a picture of Christmas in the Philippines. The lyrics describe Christmas trees shimmering with lights of all different colors: red, green, blue, yellow, blinking and dancing. It sings of the beautiful paroles hanging in windows, sparkling with 1,000 tiny lights. It's a song for children, for festive parties. A song that sounds like the cheerful chaos of a Filipino Christmas market. But in the legend, something extraordinary happens to this song. The performers don't sing it this way. Instead, they transform it. As the story goes, they strip it down. The festive instruments are gone. The tempo slows to a crawl. They perform it a cappella, their voices alone filling the vast, silent cathedral. And this changes everything. The playful, twinkling lights in the lyrics are no longer just decorations. Sung slowly, achingly, they become distant stars. The blinking lights are no longer just a sign of a party, but a metaphor for memories flashing in the mind. The parol is no longer just a lantern, but a distant beacon of a home that is desperately missed. The joy of the original song is still there, but now it's filtered through the deep, soulful lens of pangungulila. The song of celebration becomes a hymn of longing. The simple Tagalog phrases, once playful, now sound like a prayer for homecoming. The upbeat carol becomes a heart-wrenching ballad, its hidden emotional power finally unleashed. And so, we arrive at the heart of the story. Picture the scene as it's told in those online retellings. The Filipino performers stand under the magnificent domes. A hush falls. The congregation expects a Latin hymn, maybe, or a polished piece of classical music. Instead, the first notes that echo through the cathedral are soft, foreign, and sung with no music at all. The story describes the initial reaction as polite confusion. But then, as the strange, beautiful melody unfolds, something shifts. The raw, unfiltered emotion in the singers' voices begins to work its magic. In the retellings, you'll hear about an elderly woman in a fur coat whose stoic expression slowly crumbles. They describe a stern-faced man in uniform whose jaw tightens as he fights back a feeling he doesn't understand. Then, the first sound breaks the silence. Not applause. A single, stifled sob. According to the legend, it's like a dam breaking. That one sound gives everyone else permission to feel. A man in the third row takes off his glasses to wipe his eyes. A mother clutches her scarf to her chest. Soon, the quiet, isolated tears turn into a wave of collective emotion. The stoic silence of the Russian cathedral is shattered, replaced by the sound of open, honest weeping. The priests, the choir boys, the regular folks. The entire room is united in a moment of profound, shared vulnerability. The audience doesn't understand the Tagalog words. They don't know about simbang gabi or the parol. But they don't need to. They understand the feeling. In the singer's voice, they hear the universal human language of longing. Maybe it reminds them of a loved one they've lost, a home they can't return to, or a spiritual connection they've been yearning for. The song's pangungulila becomes a vessel for their own hidden grief and hope. When the final note fades, the story says there is no applause. There is only a sacred, holy silence, thick with the shared emotion of hundreds of strangers who have just been broken open together. So why does this story resonate so deeply with so many, whether it happened exactly as told or not? Because it's a story we need right now. It insists that in a world that feels more and more divided, some things can still bring us together. The performance, as it's told, is a profound act of emotional translation. The singers didn't translate the words, they translated the feeling. They took a culturally specific emotion, the pangungulila of a Filipino far from home, and sent it out so purely that it became a universal experience. The story is also a powerful nod to authenticity. In a world of polished, auto-tuned perfection, the legend celebrates the power of the raw and the real. The humble origins of the performers are key to the story's power. They weren't offering technical mastery. They were offering a piece of their soul. And that offering was received not as a performance, but as a gift. Ultimately, the truth of the Filipino Christmas song that made a Russian cathedral cry isn't something you can fact-check. Its truth is emotional. It confirms something we all hope is real, that a single voice can bridge any divide, that longing sounds the same in any language, and that music can find the cracks in the most hardened hearts and let a little light in. The story of the Weeping Cathedral is a powerful reminder of how a piece of music can completely change a room, and maybe even change us. It's proof that some feelings are so universal they don't need words. I'd love to hear your own experience with this. Has a song, in any language, ever unexpectedly moved you to tears? Share your story in the comments below. And if you believe in the power of these kinds of stories to connect us, please consider subscribing for more journeys into the heart of music and culture. Whether it was a choir, a janitor, or a child who sang that day, the legend of the Filipino carol in the Russian Cathedral lives on. It's become a modern Christmas classic in its own right, a story we tell because it reflects a profound hope. It's the hope that even in the coldest winter, in the most foreign of lands, the simple, heartfelt sound of home can create a moment of warmth, understanding, and shared humanity. And that, in itself, is a Christmas miracle.